This is one of the smartest people I know in this industry. Let me tell you, when someone sees a professional bodybuilder, they instantly assume that that person is not an intelligent person. When they see someone walking all muscled up and strong, looking like an Adonis, they think, oh, this person has no intelligence. When they see somebody that is eating egg whites and oatmeal and just feeding their body, feeding their machine, they think, oh, that poor guy, he's not intelligent at all. Well, let me tell you something. I'm gonna bring you on one of the most intelligent men I know in this industry. As a matter of fact, he hosts a podcast called Muscle Intelligence. He's got a gym called MI40, and I was one of the first people to sign his wall. And I learned so much from this gentleman, and I want you to learn so much from my special guest today. I want everyone to make welcome Mr. Ben Pakulski. Ben, welcome to the Nanotest Nation, my brother.
Man, so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And gentlemen, hopefully we can provide some value. So, I know Clark's providing a ton, so it's absolutely a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, brother. So I sent you the product. I sent you a little bit of what we're doing. So when someone joins the Nanotest Nation, they get that, right? So the first thing is this. Nobody has to buy my product. I coach everyone for free because I'm a value add guy like you. I want to give people information. In your podcast, you're constantly just giving people information. What happens is people just become, disciples. They're disciplined learners, and they want to grow, and they want to be the best they can possibly be. So that is the topic of our conversation. And specifically, we talk about testosterone a lot, but I don't want to hold you to any topic. I want you to just, run with this, and we'll take questions later. But, what's on your heart? What's on your mind? What value can you add to these guys?
Well, first of all, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of framing, like I get it, right? I get where you're all at, and because I'm there too, man. Like I'm a dad of two, a single dad of two, entrepreneur owning many businesses, and on top of trying to keep my body in check and always look my best. And I'm inspired by a guy like Clark as well, and inspired by all of you guys just for showing up for this stuff. I see what you guys do, and a lot of you guys are trying to background. It's so awesome. And so just to point out, like I'm not someone who was raised with a silver spoon in my mouth. I'm not someone who it came easy to. It doesn't come easy to me now. And learning how to balance all these things is hard. And so it's so important that you learn to focus on the things that are the high value items, right? So what are the most impactful things you can do on a day-to-day basis to change your body, change your mind, change your life, ultimately become empowered so you can inspire, hopefully, your family to start with, maybe your children, and maybe the community around you. And the bigger the aspirations you set, the better, right? So all of you guys, like some people, as we age, the society tends to beat out of us, right? It tends to beat the inspiration out of us. When we're 24, we're like, oh, I'm going to take over the world. And then eventually we hit 40, we're like, not so sure anymore. And then at 50, it's like, things get harder, right? And it beats it out of you. But realize, guys, you can do it, right? And it's just the story you have in your head as to why you can't. So, looking to people like Clark to ultimately give you the path and the inspiration and maybe the accountability is massive, man. So Clark, thanks to you for what you do, buddy. Like you continue to inspire me every day. And, I'm super grateful to be here. And again, I could talk for days about how to, what you guys should focus on. And maybe that's what I'll do. I'll let Clark, or I'll kind of take the steering wheel here and guide you guys down a path. So I like to simplify fitness, right? Fitness is this massive, overwhelming thing. And people go, there's so many things I got to do. And yes, so I created a framework that I think is absolutely necessary. So if you guys run a business, like there's a few small number of things that if you do every day, you're going to succeed in business. If you guys in your family, like in your relationships, if you just check like small boxes, little boxes every single day, and you're consistent with it, you can really change your life. And so, I train a lot of people just like yourselves. And I started off with this understanding that so many people come into the fitness industry confused. So I'm like, okay, how can I create a simple framework that allows you guys to understand what the most important things are? I know Clark's got his framework, and so I'm going to give you mine. It's a little bit different. And so the way I speak is often referring to this ideal scenario of a lean, healthy, and muscular body. And none of you guys can all attach to that, but like, is that something that we all kind of aspire to, right? We want to be lean, we want to be healthy, and we want to be muscular, right? I think most men aspire to some level of muscularity. It doesn't mean you have to look like Mr. Olympia or even like Clark. It's like, hey, I want to be the most muscular version of myself, like the muscle for me and lean for me and healthy for me, so that I can show up, at my highest and best to all the people in my life. So here's a simple framework that I think all of you guys should adopt. So there's 6 things, and I call it the 6 pillars of a lean, healthy, and muscular body, right? So there's 6 things that we should all be doing, or at least paying attention to every day. And this is a very high level overview, so you guys can start thinking about this. So the reason I came to this was there's really 6 inputs, like 6 ways that you can affect your body. And I've never heard anybody talk about this before. And I think it's the most powerful framework that exists. So when you start to understand that all the things that exist in the fitness realm, there's only really 6 that you have an influence over. I'm going to tell you what those are. If anyone's taking notes, it's a good idea to write these down. The first one, movement. Movement is a pillar, right? We have to be able to move our body. We have to move our body on a consistent basis, and all these different complex types of movements. I'm going to talk about movement at length. Another one is obviously nutrition and nourishment, right? Like we got to make sure our body's getting nourished. And here's how this comes, right? Only 6 things we can do to our body. We can move, we can eat, we can breathe, we can sleep, we can think. 5. So I'm gonna say those again: move, eat, breathe, sleep, and think. And there's a 6th. It's the environment in which we do them. That's it, right? Move, eat, breathe, sleep, think. And the environment in which we do them. Those are your 6 pillars. That's it. So those are the 6 things that we have to influence. Right? So we have to allow our body to move correctly or adequately. We have to nourish our body. We have to sleep well. We have to breathe well. We have to think well, mindset, and the environment in which we do those. And none of them is more important, right? So everyone tends to say, hey, if I'm a nutritionist, it's all mostly in nutrition. Well, no, if you're a massively stressed out person, Clark will tell you this, you can eat broccoli, chicken, and green vegetables and meat only, and you're still going to not get in good shape, right? Your body will break down your soul because it's overstressed. So you got to have stress interventions. And that's where these other pillars come in. So everyone needs to be equally considered, because for you right now, sleep may be the biggest pillar. So changing your sleep could give you, think of it like levers, right? Which one's going to give you the greatest leverage to move the greatest amount of weight or the greatest amount of resistance in your life? So if sleep is terrible for you guys, we got to address sleep. If your mindset is terrible, then we got to address that. And if the movement is not there, then we got to address that. And each of them could have an equal weighting in your life. And so when I started to offer people this framework, people go, oh, yeah, it's one of these things. And the one that often gets overlooked, and you guys will often overlook this as well, and I strongly suggest you don't, is your environment. 6th one, right? The 6th one, your environment. What is environment? It's light, it's air, it's EMF, and it's people, it's community. Your environment, right? So, man, people don't realize how much of an influence light is on our biology, right? Light is the single greatest influence on our biology, which is crazy to think about. When I say our biology, I just mean like our internal state, right? So and the way I think about this, guys, if you pictured me standing alone on a whiteboard, like I just drew a picture of myself on a whiteboard, and have these 6 things around me. This is how I picture it. So I have myself standing in the middle, and I have my 6 things drawn around me. And the reason I say that is because those 6 things are external signals. Those are the way the world outside of my body is able to create an internal environment, right? So we're trying to use the external signals to create an internal environment or an internal response that allows us to be lean, healthy, and muscular. That's it. So it's the combination of all these signals going in that determines what my body looks like on the inside and the outside, right? So now I have to learn to take control. Which one, if I just change it a little bit, is going to make the biggest difference to my physique or to my health or to my mindset, right? And all of these things can be massive levers for you guys. So, and here's the thing, none of them is more important than the next. And everyone goes, oh, nutrition is most important. Stress is most important. Again, it may be for you, but for somebody else it's different. So never, ever, ever disregard any of the pillars because they're all equally important. And so I like to start there. And again, that gives you guys a level framework because I think it makes fitness a little bit more kind of within grasp. You're like, oh, there's only 6 things that I can do. Yes. And again, I'll touch on breathing as well, because breathing in the fitness industry lately has become really, really popular. It's kind of all the rage and everybody's jumping on breathing. I'll tell you guys, if you're not paying attention to your breath, you're missing a massive opportunity to one, control your stress, 2, control your mind, and 3, control energy production. And like, if you're lacking energy, you're lacking enthusiasm. It can all come through this simple mechanism of breath, right? So you often hear people talking about like, what are the most important things to do every day? Well, I'll tell you, there's two things that I think everyone should be doing every day. Actually, three, but one of them I think you guys might not attach to, but I'll say it anyway. So it's this kind of simple moniker that I created. It's breathe, walk, and meditate, right? So if you can do those three things every day, breathe, walk, and meditate, your life will change, because those are the three most foundational things to human optimization. Breathing is the key to stress reduction. Breathing is the key to energy production. Walking is the most functional, well, exactly, breathe, walk, meditate, Anthony knows. So breathing and walking are the two most functional things we do as humans, right? How many times do you breathe a day? 22,000 times a day on average, sometimes more, sometimes less. It's a lot of times. So if you can learn to improve the function, improve the mechanics, and improve the physiology of your breath, and I can give you guys guidance on that very, very quickly, you can start to completely change your life. So if you guys are going to do any three things in a day, invest 5 minutes in breathing, 5 minutes minimum in walking, and 5 minutes in meditation. And if you start there and you do it every single day for 30 days, you will write Clark and I, and you go, my life changed. And it has to be intentional breathing with no distractions, intentional walking with no distractions, and obviously intentional meditation with no distractions, 15 minutes a day. So I suggest everyone starts their day that way. And it's a very small amount of time, but it allows you to gain control of your physiology, right? So rather than stepping into the world and having the world create you, you're creating yourself and taking a stronger version of yourself to the world. And I think that's the simplest framework that each of you guys can start with. And now 5 minutes can turn into 10, and then 10 can turn into 20, and you can expand it. But the smallest incremental change comes from consistent daily action, right? So take consistent daily action on simple 5 minutes of breathing. So since we're all on this call, I want you guys to all join me with this. And we're going to do really simple breathing practice. So first thing first, if you're sitting, sit up tall, no using the back of your chair. Okay, I want you to actually use up and use your body to hold it up. And now it's very important that the breath happens through the nose. So many of you guys, I have a deviated septum or I have whatever, sleep apnea, like, okay, but we still have to breathe through the nose. And it's important, even if it's small amounts of air going in. And it's okay if you feel hungry for air, if you're like, I feel like I'm gasping. That's part of the process, right? Learning to keep yourself calm when you're lacking that air is part of training your nervous system to relax, right? So when you feel that like I need air, it almost initiates this feeling of anxiety, right? Of like panic. Good. And we want to learn to just relax, realize you're going to be okay. So anytime we experience stress in life, we experience anxiety, there tends to be this really short breath up into the chest, right? Like we come up here, we become really tense. Sometimes we can become hunched forward. So we want to do the opposite. I want to try to unwind that. So I want you guys to think about becoming very soft in your movements, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your head and hands and your neck. And just think about breathing in through your nose. And we're going to breathe in for a 4 count. We're going to hold for a 2 count. We're going to breathe out for a 4 count, and we're going to hold for a 2 count, right? So I'm going to give you an example. We go in for 4, slight hold before we exhale for 4, and then a slight hold again before we inhale through our nose. Now, when you're inhaling, I want you to consciously visualize sending the air down into your balls. So we're going to breathe down into our testicles, and we're going to send it down to our lower belly, okay? So I want you guys to think about that. So it's not up here. It's intentionally trying to breathe through your nose into your belly. Now, here's a tip. Here's a pro tip. If you guys ever hear like Darth Vader speak, or he's kind of, and you guys like all do that, you can kind of hear it in the back of your throat. Yes, it's like if I had a mirror in front of my face, I'd be trying to fog up the mirror. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that, but we're going to do it with our mouth closed. So it sounds like this. So I'm doing it with my mouth closed. So it's still a feeling you kind of get in the back of your throat. That's going to allow you to get more in and more air out. So that's a little pro tip. You may or may not be able to get that right away, but something to work on when you're at home. Like put a mirror in front of your face and go, and then try it with your mouth closed. Let's practice. Okay, so let's all do this. We're going to do 5 breaths, 4 in, 2 hold, 4 out. Everybody ready? Let's do it. You can choose to close your eyes or not. out for 4. Hold, in for 4. Hold, out. Hold for 2, and relax on the hold. 1, 2, 3, 4 in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. So guys, that simple practice starts to sync your breathing and your brain in a way that'll allow you to access a more calm mind, a more focused mind, a greater amount of stress alleviation, and ultimately help you sleep. So here's a little superpower I'll teach you guys about. So when I fall asleep at night, my wife she hates me for it. I fall asleep in 10 seconds. She goes, how do you do that? Well, I literally count backwards from 10, sink into my breath, and I am just literally, it's almost like you're envisioning a basketball scoreboard counting down. And you're breathing slowly, and I'm so taking a breath in, I'm pausing, and I'm letting it out as slowly as I can, probably about a 10-second exhale. And by the time I get to 10, or I don't even usually get to 0, I'm out. And people are like, how do you do that? Well, it's practice. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's an aspiration, right? A lot of you guys may have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, or you get up in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep. Well, it's going to be a really hard test to introduce. Man, just learning to take control of that breath will help you guys learn to take control of your physiology, right? So again, transforming your body, guys, takes the foundation of every transformation, whether it be in a relationship, in business, or in the body, takes one thing. It takes presence. It takes conscious awareness. In order for me to change, I have to become aware of the things that I do, right? So 95%, after 35 years old, 95% of the things we do are unconscious. We don't think about them. And the only way then to change those things is to become aware of them. And if the only way to become aware of them, in my eyes, is to start just like paying attention to your breath. The breath is something that's always there. You can always come back to this, focus on this simple thing. And you guys may have heard this before. Maybe this is new, maybe it's not. But again, this is a simple foundation that if you don't do this breathe, walk, and meditate thing, all the other things you do won't be as effective, right? So think of this like a supercharge. Everything else I do will become more effective, including my sex life, my relationships, my business, everything, all of it gets better because now I'm in control of my nervous system rather than my nervous system controlling me, right? So when I'm stressed, my nervous system goes into a high alert and I go into panic and I go into, my brain starts to race and I can't control it and my thoughts are racing versus me creating my nervous system and taking that into the world with me and going, I'm in control of my mind, I'm in control of my body. And the external factors influence me less. I can perceive them and see them there. And I don't react to them because I'm in control, right? That's ultimately a leader. And that's what we're all aspiring to do. So I've been talking for a little bit. So I'll open that to any questions, or Clark, if you have anything you want me to kind of go down. And again, there's lots more stuff I'm going to talk about, guys, when it comes to 6 pillars. But I wanted you guys to stop there and kind of ask if there's any questions that come up on that particular topic.
Brother, I love that. I mean, you're so in tune with what we do here because breathing is such a big part. And oddly enough, and people don't think about it or consider it, that breathing, like you just taught us, affects our testosterone levels in a way that we don't even understand. Like we go to these extreme measures, right? Guys will instantly go to get a shot or a pellet or something, not having taken the time to go along the way. And then with respect to what you were saying about the 6 pillars that you have, we kind of frame it in a way that what we have: mindset, meals, movement, community, and supplementation. What I tell guys to do is check in on a scale of 1 to 10, where you at with mindset. So this then becomes the indicator on where you need to focus. Yeah. So if I ask them to take that checklist and they go, I'm at a 4 on nutrition. Well, now we know where you're struggling. So this checks and balances thing is really important as we move through this process. Guys, any questions for Ben?
So just before anyone asks a question, actually, I want to kind of draw a straight line there for you guys. So you guys are all focused on testosterone, and I didn't make that correlation for you. So breathing is, or ultimately, so this is, I'm going to give you a 30-second explanation of something. So your nervous system is constantly perceiving the environment. And if it perceives a threat, it releases cortisol. It releases first adrenaline and then cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And cortisol and testosterone are inversely proportional. So as cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. So we want to be conscious of our cortisol rhythms being Actually, so that's not entirely true, but that's in general the way it's going to, so the inverse proportional nature of testosterone and cortisol isn't exactly true, but there's certainly we know that if someone has elevated cortisol, they're going to have decreased testosterone, like chronically elevated cortisol, they're going to have decreased testosterone. So the access point to constantly not being in this elevated cortisol state is through things like just becoming aware and becoming and breathing and taking control of your nervous system. So there's definitely a straight line correlation there that you guys should just all be aware of. And as soon as you start to decrease your stress, your testosterone goes up. Yeah, so we'll take questions.
That. Guys, anybody? I got a million, so I could go on here forever. So
yeah, hey, I had one quick question. Hey Ben, so what's the difference in the breathing style between a 4 count, 2 count, and a 4-4? In other words, so I've learned about box breathing and I practice a lot of times, especially when I'm sitting in on an ice bath. 4 in, hold for 4, out for 4,
so
and then
to
hold
be
for
honest,
4.
that would be a really good progression. Oh, my pleasure, man. So a 4-4 would just be a really good way to progress. So for most people, holding their breath for 4 seconds after exhalation is very hard. So not knowing the level of everyone in the group, I was like, let's do something that everyone can do and can feel good about. Because if I say, hey, let's do a 4-4 box breath, and some of the guys can't hold their breath for 4 seconds after an exhale, they're like, fuck this, I can't do it, right? So we want to start with things we can do them consistently, and ultimately succeed, right? We want to win the day, and I can talk to you guys about that too. So we want to win every day, and I'm sure Clark's saying, well, this is how you rate yourself on a 1 to 5, right? Rate yourself every day, and I'll talk about more about my win the day kind of approach in a minute.
You're dealing with a bunch of badasses here, brother. I don't know what room you think you stepped into, but these guys will box breathe, they'll box fight, they'll do everything, man. They're ready to go because they're nice. Elevating their testosterone levels. These guys honestly have made such a massive transformation. Many of them are at different stages of this process because what I do is kind of evergreen. They can jump in whenever they want. Some are at week 1, some are at week 6. So before you get into your next point, we had talked about what you could do with me in 6 weeks. What could the average person do? Because a lot of people think, oh, that's a long time, or that's not long enough, or,
right.
Put some framework to how much the human body can change and such. Because you changed us in 5 short breaths. I mean, that's the physiology of this beautiful machine that we live in. Instant, right?
Yeah. So here's a really good framework that'll help you guys. So let's say everybody on average, and this is never everyone say, oh, everyone on average is up 16 hours a day. You're awake 16 hours a day, maybe 18, maybe 15, whatever. Doesn't matter. Here's the point. We all have a certain number of hours in the day that we fill based on our needs, based on our wants, based on, kind of the lifestyle that we've created up to this point. So the lifestyle you've created up to this point is a perfect reflection of your body, or your body right now is a perfect reflection of the lifestyle you've created up to this point, right? We can all agree to that. Maybe there's been some injuries, maybe there's been some setbacks. Those are obviously short-term things, but ultimately the way you look and the way you feel and the way your brain works right now is an exact reflection. It's a mirror of the way you feel your time, the way you feel these 16 hours of the day. So if I want to change the way I look, if I want to change the way my body reflects my lifestyle, well, I need to change the 16 hours of the day somewhere, right? So if someone's willing to come to me and go, Ben, I'm willing to change all 16 hours, tell me what to do. Well, then we can change it fast. And if someone goes, man, I'm only able to change, willing to change 15 minutes in the beginning, 15 minutes, we'll start there. And then we'll start to just bring it in, right? So we'll go like, hey, let's do 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. Then we start to condense it. And then we will add 15 minutes pre-workout. And then we start to just take over. We infiltrate the 15-minute blocks throughout the day to give you more high impact habits to change your lifestyle, which then your body becomes a reflection of, right? So if there's, again, everyone can change 5 minutes, everyone can change 15 minutes a day, everyone. And you have the ability, whether or not you think you don't or not, you do. And all those little 15-minute blocks, as long as they're done consistently, will start stacking, right? They'll start stacking and eventually it'll close in and boom, my entire 16-hour window has completely changed. You have to be willing to do it. It's not going to be easy, but it is simple, right? So Clark asked, how quickly could we change in 6 weeks? The answer is, how many of those hours or 15-minute windows are you able to and willing to commit to transforming, right? And so there's levels to this. So a guy like Clark, I was like, Clark, I know you'll give me everything. I mean, the change we could make, and you guys will probably you've probably heard stuff like, most muscle you can put on a year is like 7 pounds, like 7 to 8 pounds of pure lean muscle naturally. And that's complete horseshit. because here's the reality. Those people who are doing that research have no idea how to train. There are a bunch of master's levels university students who have no idea how to train. I've been doing this for 25 years. Clark's been doing it for longer than me. Like there's little things you just pick up along the way by pushing your body and mind well beyond any other human ever has, that nobody else has ever been able to explain. So if you revert back to when Arnold was training and competing, Arnold was so far ahead of his time, but we've progressed 40 years in our knowledge and in our understanding of science and understanding of physiology and our understanding of how the human body moves, as well as pushing it beyond that. So we can change so much faster than we think. So here's a good point. I had a 6-month coaching program that I took on. We had 30 people. We had an average, this is average, of 27 pounds of muscle gain in 6 months. Average. Here's the crazy thing. Women were part of this group. We had at least 7 women, and we had an average of 27 pounds of muscle gain in 6 months. Because you're giving these people, again, our commitment is you got to be all in. If you're not all in, it was like, no. So that's why we only took 30. We did this 6-month cohort. We had an average of 27 pounds, which is just crazy. So then we took that program and we repurposed it and sold it on the internet, did very, very well. But that was like actually working with me, right? You got to work with me, you got to talk with me once every 2 weeks. But people just transform so fast. So why? Because we're doing all the little stuff right, and they committed 100%. Now let me ask you this: what would you guys give to commit 6 months of your life and actually come out on the other end and just be a completely different person? Like, first you have to be able to see that. Like, can I visualize what it might look like if I was a different person? Most people can't. Could I visualize what my life would look like if I was a different person? And could I sacrifice some time, maybe it's 3 months or 6 months, to make those changes? And that's kind of all why you guys are here, right? So what I suggest to you, there's 2 ways to approach this. One, you can learn to be lean, healthy, and muscular now, which is, overhauling your life. And then there's like, how do I learn to be lean, healthy, and muscular now and for life, right? So what are those things that I can actually sustain every day for the rest of my life, so I can be ultimately at Clark's level of fitness forever? And you guys can all do it. And it's just the story you have as to why you can't.
Yeah, Ben, what I love the most is when I go online and I see some really smart person, right, with a master's level degree, and they've never been in the trenches like us, and they try and convince people of what the human body cannot do. And I sit here and I go, oh my God, are you suggesting that you know everything that a human is capable of doing? And that's, you're going to put a cap on it right there? I mean, I literally sit over here and I pull my hair out. Like, people are so arrogant. People are so full of themselves, thinking that they have just figured this thing out to the point where it's like, okay, we're all done here. Nobody can run past 9 seconds in 100 meters. Nobody can jump. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so frustrating. Right. I love hearing people like yourself that have been in the trenches that say, no, that's complete and absolute bullshit. It is possible, but how much are you willing to commit to the process? That is the key. And once
and how much can you sustain?
And tap into it, it's endless what we can do. I mean, we're seeing it day in and day out. So yeah, this is fun stuff, man. Guys, anyone, any questions?
Can you talk to us about meditation? Just
sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. So guys, meditation sometimes gets this this air of confusion around it, or this air of like spirituality. Meditation doesn't have to be about spirituality. It can certainly be the access point, but it doesn't have to be anything that's like hippie or weird. In my mind, there's the foundation, as I just said, the foundation of change, the foundation of progress in life is awareness. So if I can't become aware of the things I do on a day-to-day basis, I simply can't change it because I'm unconscious of it. I don't know I'm doing it, right? So what's the foundation of change? I have to learn how to pay attention. And so here's a simple framework for you guys. If you all have your eyes open right now, your nervous system and brain are sensing the information through your eyes. 90% of the information is coming through your eyes, and 10% of information is coming through your ears, through your skin, through a proprioceptive kind of nervous system input, right? Coming through the bottom of your feet, coming through what you smell, coming through what you taste. So your brain is constantly perceiving all these things. 90% is coming through the visual system. So if you were to close your eyes, you've just eliminated 90% of the sensory input. That's huge. So then what do we do? Then maybe, so let's think about this. Think of the world as a video game, right? If we're playing, let's say you guys are all in my age category. You're playing like Super Mario Brothers, right? Like back in the day, there's like Super Mario Brothers, any video game you can think of. There's like bombs going off. There's lots of stuff happening. There's bright colors. There's a lot of movement. Your brain is perceiving every single thing that's happening, including my hands going like this. Your brain's perceiving. That's a lot of sensory information. So your brain's working really, really fast to perceive it all. So I want to slow that down, right? So I take my focus from all the things that are happening in the external world. I want to bring them into the internal world. So think now, how many things can you pay attention to in your internal body? So we have exteroception, which is our body's perception or our brain's perception of the things around us. And we have interoception. So our body's perception of things happening inside of our body. So if I say right now, I want you all to close your eyes. Do this with me, guys. Humor me. And I want you just to pay attention to, most of you are sitting, some of you are standing. So if you're sitting, I want you to pay attention to the way your feet are hitting the floor. Put your feet flat on the floor. It can be really anyway. But I want you to pay attention to like the pressure that your feet are applying against the floor, the pressure that your butt is applying against the seat. And if you're walking like your buddy Ted, Ted, feel your hands against the treadmill or feel your feet, how they strike the floor. And I want you just to really zero in on just that one sensation. So if it's maybe your butt against the pillow, whatever it happens to be, just really zero in on that sensation and see if you can only zero in on that sensation for 10, 20, or 30 seconds. Just focus on that. Your brain's going to want to go into something else. Just bring it back. And so all we're doing is taking our attention away from the 90, or it's literally millions of things that our body is perceiving in the environment and bring it inside of our body just for 30 to 60 seconds. So we've just completely changed the way our brain is perceiving the world around us and brought it onto a single point of focus rather than a million points of input, right? So your brain's still going to get some of that input, but you're going to reduce it. So we're training our brain and our mind to focus on one single thing. You guys want to have a good relationship? Learn to focus on your spouse. You want to be great at training? Learn to focus during that set. You shouldn't be thinking about your taxes and your stress and your wife and your sex life and your girlfriend when you're doing that set. You should be focused on just that one thing, to include the way you parent, to include the way you run a business. If you guys learn to focus on a single point when you're doing it, your success in everything increases, right? So if I speak of meditation in a way of like, maybe it's just this, and there's many different forms of meditation, I'll admit that. But this one, as far as its benefit, just like having a single point of focus at certain points throughout the day will completely change your ability to focus in the moment, therefore change your life, right? So if that helps, hopefully you guys can start to just see the value, right? And again, I'm just going to say that the precipice of all change comes from paying attention to the way you think, paying attention to the words you use, paying attention to the actions and the habits and the mindless things that just exist in life that ultimately have accumulated to this point to express in the life you have. If you love your life, awesome. If you want to express some change, then let's make some change, right? And start with those little incremental bite-sized pieces.
Ben, how can guys see your podcast? I'm going to have Danny put it in the chat box down there.
So Muscle Intelligence is the podcast. It's muscleintelligence.com as well. So again, the framing of the podcast, guys, is ultimately how to live your greatest life in a body you love. And so we get into money, we get into business, we get into relationships. You know, I was thinking about it this morning. Is like some people call me like the bodybuilding Yoda, and some people call me the bodybuilding Yogi. And you know, I just call myself a dad that loves to think deeply and maybe ultimately loves to get the most out of myself and everything I do, right? And that's really it. And that's kind of the framing of this podcast is like, I want to get the most out of everything I do, not just my body, but my finances and my relationships and my sex life and my parenting, like all that. I want to be great at all those things. So what are the basic principles that we can apply to life that gets the most out of all of them? So I want to finish with one thing before we wrap, Clark, if that's where you're headed. So when it comes to movement, guys, there's a simple framework that I think all of you guys should think about. So with movement, we need 3 types of movement, I think. So we need strength training, we need mobility training, and we need aerobic training. That's it. So we just like, people go, how do I train, Ben? I mean, the answer is this. Think of this like three pillars, I guess, or 3 levers. So you need strength training because you want to be strong as we age. You need mobility because you got to be able to access the ranges of motion and you got to be able to move without pain. You need aerobic training. Aerobic fitness is very, very important. And that, so from a training perspective, I envision those like volume knobs that I can adjust up and down. Like if I want to be stronger, people go, how many times a week do I need to train? Well, if I want to be stronger, I need more of the strength training. So maybe I do 3 to 5 of those things. If I need to improve my aerobic fitness, well, I need to do more of those things. And it's literally just this like dynamic dance of like, how many of these do I do? So personally, I do four weight workouts a week. So I basically alternate, right? So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday is going to be weight training. So heavy resistance training, really focused on just being strong. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is focused for me on aerobic training, which is basically usually just going outside and riding my bike, or going to do a yoga class. I wanted, because I mean, I know, like you, saying like, hey, go stretch for an hour. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. But if I have to find a yoga instructor, then I'm more likely to adhere to that, right? Like, so I found this amazingly attractive yoga instructor, and I go to her place. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever. So I go 3 times a week because she's hot and I get to stretch. It's awesome. And that's a huge benefit, right? But like, it sounds funny, but like, do it, right? If you know how to improve your adherence, don't ruin your marriage in the process. But if you know how to improve your adherence, fucking do it. Why not, right? I'm sure your wife would be like, hell yeah, like you're getting fit, whatever it's going to take, improve your sex life. Anyways,
so that's a
I digress.
I
digress.
No, and I'm not ready to end this thing, man. I want to keep it going, but I just wanted to make sure guys knew how to connect with you. So let's talk about that marriage thing for a minute, because oftentimes when guys come into a group like this, or they see someone like us, Ben, they instantly think aesthetics. They're like, I want to get abs, I want to do this. But because you are the bodybuilding yogi or the bodybuilding yoga, you bring so much more to the table than people are expecting. And they're like, well, I just wanted to learn how to not eat carbs and not give up on that, and it's like, that's not what we're about. What we're about is this holistic approach, because when you take that approach to this and you're not, having a myopic approach to fitness, like, I'm going to do chicken and asparagus every day for the rest of my life. This is not sustainable, but it's also not reality. Right? Everything else, like closing your eyes, takes out 90% of the stimulus that we're getting. And fitness is not 100% of what we are. That extends out into our life. So I wanted to bring this up to you guys, because I thought about this morning. It was 6:45 and I realized we didn't have any coffee creamer. And my wife was in the bed sleeping, and I know that she's going to want to wake up and come out and make her a little coffee. She's got her little whipping thing and she froths it up. And I thought to myself, do I have enough time to run to the store to go get my wife her creamer that she needs? And I said, you know what? These guys can wait a few minutes, because this is what really matters. And this is the example that I want to set to my guys in the Nanotest Nation of, this is part of what we do. We think outside of ourselves. That's what a nanotest man is someone who is willing to do something as simple as go run and get your wife creamer so she has it when she wakes up in the morning. That adds so much value to who we are. We talk about this idea of being a man, and the world is talking about toxic masculinity, which is bullshit in my opinion, because there's nothing toxic about getting up and going off and getting your wife creamer, but I look like a fucking man doing it. You know what I'm saying? I walk into 7-Eleven, they're like, damn, bro, do you work out? How much do you bench? You see what I'm saying? How all this comes together? Man, Ben, you got me fired up, dude. This happens to me.
Man, I would love to offer some perspective on that, because like I'm an aspiring, exceptional dad, right? I really want to be the greatest dad to my little humans. And I'll give you perspective. I think this is relevant to every relationship. So most people in modern society place other people's value of them higher than themselves, right? So people like, I'm more worried about what other people think of me than I am where I think about myself. So that's an interesting perspective. But let's say, with you guys aren't probably huge into social media, but this applies in every area of life. Is most people will shit on the people closest to them and be nice to the people they don't know, right? And so that includes your spouse, that includes your kids, that includes your best friends. And man, what a backwards paradigm, isn't it? So here's my advice. And I got this from a guy who's actually based out in California, and it really changed the way I parent and approach any relationship. So some people are going to come up and ask for your time, and they're going to go, oh, can we talk about this? And oftentimes you're in something else, and you often just want to blow them off. Leave me alone. I'm watching TV, or leave me alone. I'm doing my work, or whatever. So here's my rule. I have 5 people in my life, 5 people that I allow to interrupt me, and everyone else is so it's inside the circle, outside the circle, right? I've got 5 people. who are allowed to interrupt me in any situation. And I let them know they are the most important things in my life. So I call this investing deeply in these 5 relationships. So, you know, it's my kids, it's my wife, it's my parents, that's it. And that's it. So they're allowed to interrupt me at any time because I need them to know that they are my highest value. They are my highest priority. And if they came into the room and I didn't stop what I was doing, it would immediately let them know that they're not as important to me, right? They're a second priority to whatever I'm doing. So how many times in our lives do we fuck around on our phones and we're busy sending a text or an email or some shit, and somebody walks in who's important to us and we blow them off? That's a problem. So you're letting them know that whatever this other thing is you're doing is more important. That's a big, big problem. So you create a strategy that says there's only 5 people in my life that are allowed to interrupt you, and the rest of the world can wait, right? So if any time, right now my kids walk through that door, I would stop. I'd invite them to the conversation. I go, I'm talking to some gentleman here. Come and say hello, and it lets them know they're important. And so the point being, there's certain relationships in your life that if you invest deeply in, will grow and will flower, right? Will get better. And those are the ones that are closest to you. You get to choose those ones, right? You get to choose those. And that's called investing in those relationships. And if you invest in those around you, the world around you becomes more comfortable, it becomes more loving, it becomes more accepting, and you guys help each other grow, right? And here's the thing, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard when your wife's being nagging or your girlfriend's being annoying and like she just wants my time and attention. But if she's in the 5 people, you give it to her because she needs that in the moment, and you're going to show her that you're invested. You're committed to her betterment. You're committed to her life. You care about her. But again, you can't give your time to everybody this way. But if you're in that 5 people, then you do that. And I'll tell you what, you'll start to realize how much love exists in your life, how much acceptance exists in your life, and it'll start to grow. It'll be like, holy shit, I feel so much better because I'm investing deeply in a small number of relationships rather than giving every person in the world your time and attention and focus. And then you feel stressed. You're like, fuck, I have no time to do the things I need to do. I don't know, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. So invest deeply. So if it's like a friend you haven't talked to in a long time, call them, tell them you love, like reach out and just talk. So you find, it doesn't matter if they're around you, just you pick your top 5. And those are the people you invest deeply in. And hopefully they invest deeply in you. And if someone's not investing deeply in you, they're not the right person, right? If they don't want to accept you for who you are and the changes you're going to make and want the best for you, simply not the right person, right? And again, I don't want to ruin anyone's relationship, but like maybe it requires some damaging the holes we've put in the fence. But I think this is a really great way that I've approached my life. Invest deeply in the people that matter.
This is good stuff, guys. And I really want you to understand that, you know, especially if you're new coming into the Nanotest Nation, that we are all about this. Like if we're talking about being a real man, I'll be the first to admit, I am a guy who, when I get focused on something, specifically because I work out of the house, I get locked in. And my wife will come in and she'll be on social media and she'll see a French bulldog that she likes. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to see this French bulldog, but it's important to her. And my counselor once told me, Clark, you're not solving the world's problems. You can take 2 minutes. So what I consciously do now is my knees. I make sure that my knees are aligned to my wife. So it's as simple as this, a, you know, small turn, a quarter turn to the left for us bodybuilders, and my knees are facing my wife, and I'm paying attention and I'm looking at that French bulldog for a second, and I acknowledge the fact that she had something that was of value to her, whether it was of value to me or not. And I could come up with all these reasons. Don't you know that I'm making money? Don't you know what I'm doing? And I've done that. And I've done that. And I am here as your coach admitting that that is an area that I needed help in. And hearing this only validates that what I'm doing is the correct thing. Right. And we need to really be that focused on how we conduct our life on a daily basis, because the reality is that will reduce stress in your life, whether it's directly or indirectly, because you valued that person enough to go, that's the cutest little French bulldog. Not as cute as Norman though. Okay, love you, going back to work. That took like 30 seconds.
And for those of you guys who don't, maybe you need deep work time, right? Like I have 4 hours of deep work every day and it's non-interrupted time. But I schedule that and I know that I'm in my office and everyone knows I'm in my office, and I try to do it in a time when my kids aren't around, right? So there's certain times of the day, like nobody breaks in this time, the phone is outside the room. I have 4 hours of deep work every day. And like, I plan it in a time that like I know nobody's going to come in. So if it really needs to be about making money and building your business, I get it. You got to do it, but you got to create expectations. Let your wife know, hey baby, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. I'm not available. I'm working. If it's really important and you need help, obviously come get me. But ideally, if you can wait till 11, then I'll give you all my attention, right? And when you come out, you give him 10, 15 minutes of attention. I'm like, oh, there, he stayed true to his word. And now here's why that helps. Because now you've got someone on your team rather than someone who feels like you're always fighting against. Like, and trust me, I've been in that relationship too. It's like, it feels like I'm like the people who are closest to me, I'm always fighting against them, right?
Oh, please mute your mic.
That's you, Phil. We gotta mute you, buddy. There you go.
Sorry, I'm late.
All good, man.
Mute your mic, please.
If you could mute it.
Okay, there we go. All right. So, any questions for Ben this morning?
Sorry, I know we didn't kind of go on down this training route. We could talk training all day. I mean, training is my thing, but I realize, guys, that no matter what you get done in the gym, that if you're not getting the stuff done outside the gym, it doesn't help.
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
Back to the 6 pillars.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the first one, which was movement. Really quick. What are the other?
Sure. So sorry, right when I started the call, I said that, Michael. So it's here's a simple framework for you. So it's move, eat, think, sleep, breathe are the top 5. Move, eat, think, sleep, breathe.
Got
And
it.
the sixth one is the environment in which you do them. And so, guys, how many of you feel like when you walk into your home, you can let off the armor for the day, and you can let off, you can relax, and you can kind of be at peace, and you're walking in from all the stresses in the outside world, and you can walk into this solitary place. You're like, holy shit, I'm so happy to be home.
I do.
Right? Some of you went, fuck yeah, and some of you went, fuck no. And so that tells you how much your environment is influencing you, right? And you don't think about that. Man, I built my bedroom into like when I walk in there, it's like, it's like I can let the weight of the world off my shoulders. And I highly suggest you start to pay attention to how your environment is influencing you, to include like there's environments that trigger snacking. There's environments that trigger stress. There's environment that's triggered mindless activities, like sitting on your couch, right? Like that environment to you is associated with being mindless and watching television, right? And do you want to change it? Up to you, but be aware of how much that environment pulls you to go back into old habits. If you want to change out of that habit, you must change the environment.
Hey, Ben, I wanted to ask you what you mentioned about your workout split between doing the stretching and conditioning versus weightlifting.
Yeah, so I do this like dynamic balance, Warren. It's so based on how I look, based on how I feel, it's always this dynamic balance between strength, mobility, and conditioning, as you say, right? So it's like I want to be strong. I want to be lean, healthy, and muscular. So I do a lot of strength training, and I have kind of like these basic level standards that I want to maintain for myself. It's really just like how much weight I want to lift. And then I do my mobility work, which is because I want my body to feel a certain way. Like I want to be able to run and play basketball and, climb a mountain and do all these things. And also I want my body to be able to do those things. So I have to maintain a certain level of mobility and stability. And the final one is the aerobic fitness. And that comes down to like conditioning. And do I want to lose body fat, or do I want to improve my aerobic health so I can live a long, healthy life, right? And so all of those are kind of my 3 pillars of training. Again, I could go so much deeper on all of them, but that's really how I frame it for myself. And it's a really easy dynamic system that you can kind of just like, oh, this week I feel like I need a little more fat loss, or I need a little more aerobic health, right? Do it. And you shift it. And so, and it can always be fluid. So it doesn't have to be 5 days a week training or 3 days a week training. It's just always fluid, man. This week, I think I need a little more weight training. I'm losing a little bit of muscle. Put in an extra one, right?
Hey, Ben.
Yes, sir.
You touched on focus a little while ago.
Yeah.
I have a focus issue. I think I have a couple of kids who are ADD, so I assume that I am too. But can you give us a little deeper dive and just, throughout the day, some of your tactics or techniques to stay on focus, stay on task? Because it's still, after 65 years of living, I still find it a challenge every single day. And I work out of the house as well.
Yeah.
Which is an added action at times, right?
For sure. I get it, Lawrence. So like I said, your environment's big, right? So working out of the house is hard. And especially everyone at home is working out. It's so easy to walk into the kitchen and grab a snack or start doing shit you don't need to be doing, right? I get it. So, you know, here's an example. If I'm in a fight with my wife, that's not a good time to start learning a breathing practice. That's not a good time to start teaching myself something that's gonna help me in the moment, right? It's kind of like we fall to the level of our practice, right? We fall to kind of the level of what we understand unconsciously. So focus doesn't happen in the moment. Focus happens at the ends of the days when you train it. It's like almost like training your biceps. I want to train my ability to focus in punctuated ways at the beginning and the end of the day. You can do it throughout the day. I do it before every meal as well. But it's literally like, okay, as I just said, with that, like almost like meditation, taking my focus off of everything in the external world and bringing it into my internal world. And that could be, for me, just focusing on the pressure of my butt against the seat, or focusing on my breathing, or focusing on trying to relax my muscles of every muscle in my body, right? I'm trying to bring my focus inside of my body. And by doing that, it's just, you're bringing your attention to a single point of focus. And so you're training your brain to not pay attention to all of the stuff and just focus here, right? So that happens not in the moment when you're feeling like you're overwhelmed and stressed, but at punctuated points throughout the day that, like, as I said, doesn't have to be longer than 1 to 5 minutes, right? So before I eat every single meal, I close my eyes. And it's, you know, you call it a prayer, you call it a meditation, call it what you want. It's like I close my eyes and I think, and I breathe, and I relax my body, and I allow my body to receive the food. And that in of itself makes my focus better in everything else I do. To include, I'm guaranteeing these people on this call go, my memory sucks. Your memory sucks because your brain is scattered. Your brain's always doing this. Your brain doesn't know what to focus on. If I've got 8 million things happening in front of me, I don't have one that's like shining brighter. It's very hard to remember it. Your brain's just like all over the place. So the goal is to, like, I want this one thing to have a spotlight on it. So I just focus on it, and I'm going to focus only on that thing. And all the other things are there and they still happen, but I just don't notice them as much. And then I remember it, right? So that's, if that helps, Lawrence, again, man, 1 to 5 minutes every morning. Listen, but dude, before my feet hit the ground, I mean, before I get out of my bed, I've already done a breathing and gratitude practice, right? So, because like I've done 3 minutes of gratitude, and then I'll sit up and I'll do a mindfulness, bringing my attention inside of my body, focusing on my breathing, connecting my breathing, and then I'll attack the day. And I'm like, who am I? Right? That's a question I ask myself before my feet hit the ground. Who am I? And so how am I showing up for today, for my family, for my employees, for my community? How am I showing up, right? Am I strong? Am I empowered? Or am I tired? Am I lethargic and I'm shitty? You make that decision consciously before you step out of bed. Like, who am I, right? That's it. Who am I?
Guys,
how am I going to show up?
Ben, that is so on point. I love this, man. Here's the huge takeaway of all of this. We've learned so much, but the takeaway of all of this for me is that right there, because it sets the tone for your day. Guys, I've told you to create your mission or your purpose statement. There you go. Here's an example of what we were talking about. Who is this, Ben?
This is Presley.
Hi there. How are you, sweetheart?
So that's Mr. Clark. Hold on. I got my headphones in. Let me unplug.
Oh.
There we go. That's my friend Clark. You gonna go?
Hi, Presley.
That's Clark. Remember Clark?
How are you?
He said some stuff.
Who's bigger, me or your daddy? Who's got bigger muscles? Me or your daddy? Oh, okay.
I did.
Give it a minute. Okay, I'll be done in 2 minutes.
Guys, I thank you for that. That's beautiful. That's really what this
And it
is
happens,
about.
right?
I love that. I absolutely love that. So with respect to that, having this conscious decision to wake up in the morning with intention as opposed to waking up on the wrong side of the bed. And guys, I've told you, if you have your purpose statement, your mission statement set out, like when I wake up, I do the same thing. And I say, today, I will positively and powerfully affect everyone I come into contact with. That's my personal mission statement. And I think that if we could all understand that tomorrow morning when we wake up, or tonight after your swing shift, or whatever your lifestyle consists of, that if you take those 3 minutes and lay there and feel the sheets and listen to the breeze and hear the crow and all of that stuff, and allow that to not be a distraction, but a focusing opportunity to be like, this is my life. This is what I get to live. And how am I going to go experience it today? And how I'm going to impact the people within my circle of influence? Because we all have one, and it's such an amazing thing, man. I could do this for hours, guys.
Me too, man. It's been great to connect with everybody. And I know a lot of you guys, like a lot of us, are going through negative stuff. And one final piece of advice I'll leave you with is anytime something challenging happens, you have to train your brain in the moment to flip it. And so I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious, something terrible happens in my life. I train my brain to immediately see the positive, see the opportunity, right? And if you can train your brain to do that, you go, okay, how could I turn this into a positive? How is this a positive, right? How is this making me stronger? How is this making me better? How is this giving me an opportunity to learn, right? In the moment, no matter how stressful it is, your life will change. That may be the greatest piece of advice anyone will give you, is that don't wait, right? As soon as you feel that anxiety, that stress, that overwhelm, that anger, go, there's an opportunity in this. There's an opportunity, right? Where's my opportunity to get better, stronger, and be a better version of myself? It's right in that moment. It's not looking back later. Maybe you can reflect on it every night. That's a huge process that every successful person I know does. But in the moment, how can I turn this into an opportunity? How can I view this as an opportunity?
I don't know if you saw the subtleness in what he did, guys, but when he gave out that sigh and the smile at the same time, that changes your human physiology. Just something that subtle, that sigh and that smile. Because we sigh just naturally to get rid of the emotion that is building up inside of us that needs to be exercised out. And then adding that little bit of a smile to it changes the physiology of our human body, literally like that.
Yep.
I mean,
It makes it a reward.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you thought this was the direction this was going to go, brother, but I'm so glad that it was, because I could see you lighting up. No, like this is your thing. This is like really your thing that I think is even more powerful to speak about, as opposed to bicep curls and bench pressing and things like that we could do in our sleep. This is a new level for you that you're really becoming an authority in. And I'm so grateful that you allowed us some of the time away from your beautiful family to invest into the lives of these men. And I can promise you that these guys are going to take it and run with it. They're not people who are going to waste any of this time. And the next time you come and join this group and speak, which you will again, you're going to see bodies changed, minds transformed, relationships healed, guys taking on a new physiology and a new swag in life, just going down the street like, yo.
There's nothing in your way, guys. There's nothing in your way, right? 3 things you need to change: skills, habits, and process, right? Learn the skills, develop the habits, and Clark's giving you the process. That's it. It's all been done before. It's not rocket science. It's not hard. Skills, habits, process.
Brother, I'm coming to Tampa, okay? And we're going to get a workout in. Yeah, last time I was down there, man, we had a good time, and I even got on, what's that damn bike, man, that makes you pass out, puke, and sleep?
The Wingate bike.
Yeah, the Wingate. Pass out, puke, and sleep, or puke. There's 3 things that happen when you get on that thing. I got on it, man, and I was like, gone, done, man. The most intense 30 seconds of your life.
Yeah, times 10, right? And then do it 10 times.
Yeah. All right, my brother, thank you so much. Gentlemen, there you have it. One of the most intelligent men in the business. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And I always end with my guys, Ben. Brothers, have I told you lately that I love you? Well, let me get back to you on that. Make it a great day.